Bill Ackman has made headlines this past year for his amazing credit default swap before the market crash that netted his hedge fund, Pershing Square, an astounding $2.6 billion. He has also achieved a return of 70% overall in 2020 and 58% in 2019. With many achievements and many failures in Ackman's life, there are plenty of lessons that one can take away so that we can also live a successful life. Right out of the gate, after graduating from Harvard Business School, Ackman partnered with classmate David Berkowitz and started Gotham Partners. The hedge fund startup got its initial funding after Ackman was able to convince his professor, Marty Peretz, to put in $250,000 into the fund. Using his first investor as leverage, he then convinced others to join in until the fund had a total of $3 million in assets under management. Gotham Partners continued its success and was able to grow that $3 million to $300 million in less than a decade. The hedge fund was able to achieve this incredible feat by specializing in finding undervalued stocks and making small investments in these publicly traded companies. The hedge fund later on found themselves in trouble when it bought a golf course that they renamed Gotham Golf in 1997. Ackman continued to buy more golf courses even as the assets declined, and it was burning up their cash flow. After finding themselves in a mountain of debt, the young hedge fund manager tried to merge the company with First Union Real Estate Equity and Mortgage, another company that he had a stake in. Unfortunately, a judge blocked the merger after minority shareholders sued. Time ran out before the higher courts overturned the blockage and Gotham Golf went under. Ackman was forced to shut down the fund in 2003, but he left with lessons learned. Ackman states that experience is made through mistakes, and mistakes is where you learn the most. If you go through life and don't make mistakes, you won't be able to know when to walk away when the stakes are higher. He saw this firsthand when he brought Ron Johnson to JCPenney from Apple. Johnson was an executive from Apple that brought the Apple Store to the success it is today. Ackman was able to convince Johnson to become the next CEO of JCPenney in 2011 and turn the company around. The plan ultimately ended in a failure when Johnson made a key mistake that cost the company about a third of their customers. Ackman surmised that Johnson was someone who had not made too many mistakes in his life, so when he was getting negative feedback from key metrics, Johnson did not recognize the warning signs in order to pivot and make the necessary adjustments. When we're too accustomed to being right, we become blinded from the signs that tell us it's time to make some changes to our plan. Another lesson that can be taken from Ackman's life may seem counterintuitive from the previous lesson, which is when to keep going. Early in Ackman's college career, when he was a freshman, he read the application essay of the guy in the room next door. Reading it, he thought of an idea. He could write a book on how to write a college essay based on Ivy League level examples and interviews from admission officers. After sending the book off to publishers, the feedback and rejections killed his confidence. Left discouraged, he gave up on the idea only to find out later that two guys from Yale wrote a similar book which ended up being featured in a New York Times article. Ackman described the experience as psychological torture. He vowed that the next time I had a really good idea, I'm not going to listen just because someone is older than me. It's not going to stop me from going forward. Using this experience, Ackman would then go on to have a 4-year war with Municipal Bond Insurance Association from 2004 to 2008. He had shorted the company's stock and held positions in credit default swaps against the MBIA's debt. In those 4 years, Ackman was heavily criticized, branded a fraud, and investigated for conspiracy to manipulate a stock. But after those grueling years, Ackman was proven right on his thesis and MBIA collapsed. There's a difference between paying attention to key metrics that tell you the plan is not working and listening to the opinions of others that tell you you shouldn't do something. Ackman was able to persevere through the outside criticism and remain steadfast in his shorting position, making a nice profit for his company in the end. Ackman seems to be one of the very few, if any, billionaire hedge fund managers that wears his heart on his sleeve. He has said in the past that he is quite well off and that he is in a position that he doesn't need or have to work for money. That being said, he is simply doing what he loves, which he argues is helping public companies fix their management and making a profit for shareholders in the process. In the investing world, emotion is not something you should use when you make investing decisions. Ackman states, "I'm not emotional about investments. Investing is something where you have to be purely rational and not let emotions affect your decision-making, just the facts. You need to make sound judgment and make your decisions based on thorough research not only in the company's financials, but also their management, the industry, and the company's intrinsic qualities. But that doesn't mean you can't be passionate about your cause and change you want to make." Ackman has been known to cry publicly a number of times, such as in the middle of his speech to Target Corporation shareholders, in his accusation about Herbalife's pyramid scheme, and the potential state of the United States in the wake of the pandemic. If you go through life doing something that doesn't have a positive emotional impact on your life, you're going to end up living an unfulfilled one. The last lesson we can take away from Bill Ackman's life is to give back to society in a positive way. Ackman launched his charitable organization known as Pershing Square Foundation. The foundation has given away more than $100 million to organizations around the world. He has also joined Bill Gates' Giving Pledge, which commits to giving away all his money to charity. In addition to your basic ways of living, Ackman also auctions off a private lunch with him. The beneficiary charity changes from year to year. The 2020 recipient was the David Lynch Foundation, which is a nonprofit that introduces and promotes the practice of transcendental meditation for veterans with PTSD, inner-city children, victims of domestic violence, and many others. Finally, another odd way that Ackman gives back is by hiring many with non-financial background as interns for his company. Ackman states that there are those that are not fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go to Harvard Business School and gain the financial education of an Ivy League school. As a result, Ackman in the past hired a professional tennis player, a fly fisherman, and a guy he met in a taxi. Each individual has gone on to do research on key investments that Pershing Square had made. Giving back is one of the most rewarding experiences anyone can ever feel, and doing it in your own way makes it even more special. Though Bill Ackman is only 54 years old, he has many life lessons to learn from. What do you think about the lessons that can be learned from his life? Do you have any different takeaways of your own? Leave a comment down below. If you like this content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.